name is Kathy Walden. Those of you who don't know me, I'm the assistant principal at Rockland High School. I am presenting with School Resource Officer Ethan Schnabel, and we would like to tell you a little bit about some of the trainings that the staff here at the Rockland Public Schools underwent during the fall, and how we're changing some of our procedures and how we deal with potential active shooter threats. Okay?
Can everybody hear us okay? Not that it's loud. Back in the end of last summer, we decided to transition to ALICE training for our staff in terms of active shooter emergency kind of situations. In the past, we would go into an old traditional, what we call traditional style lockdown. We would have the staff just go in a corner and hide. Research has found that that's really not the best and effective way to keep your children safe or us safe. We've kind of researched it, and this is what we decided to go with. This slide we'll go through. We're going to show you some videos of the trainings that we've done. We show you some images of the training that we've done, and kind of break it all down piece by piece for you.
So basically, it all comes back to the question of what can we do to make ourselves safe and our students safe? Are we doing enough? So one of the reasons why we have to be thinking along those lines is, obviously, we're a school system, we're in the center of town, we're managed here in Rockland with a school resource officer. But based on the research, does anybody have any guesses about how long it takes for the police to respond to an active shooter situation in the school? Yeah.
8 minutes?
8 minutes? 15? 5. It is actually, average response time is 5 to 7 minutes. So for 5 to 7 minutes, the teachers and the students are trying to figure out what to do in that situation by themselves. So we want to make sure that our staff has the most tools available to them to be able to protect the children in the district as best as possible.
And that's 5 to 7 minutes, not including the schools that I might be in.
Right.
If I'm in there, we'll cut down our time.
So ALICE is a research-based program. This is something that is supported by the Federal Department of Education and the FBI. So this is a program that was developed and supported by those agencies and by the Massachusetts Department of Education and the Massachusetts, I don't remember that name.
Massachusetts Juvenile Police Officers Association, MJPOA. Yeah, these are some statistics which, as of 2014, there have been 160 school shooters incidents. From 2013 to 33 incidents. There are some raw stats out there about this year that said there were already, has anyone seen the stats that say there's 18 school shootings already this year? That's not true. Okay. There's not 18 active school shooter incidents so far this year. There are 18 incidents of gun use inside of the school. Reading on them, I'm not going to go into all of them. One of them was a school resource officer who might not have been paying attention to a kid who got a hold of his gun and fired off a round. So there is some truth to the number of 18, however, it's not 18 acts of an active shooter within a school. It's a little bit different than what you're seeing out there in some of the media reports.
Either way, we know that these numbers are increasing, and unfortunately for your children and ours, this is the world in which they're living in, and it's not just in schools. Some of the things that I feel grateful for ALICE is just making me think differently when I'm in different locations. As we've seen, nightclubs, shootings, concerts, shootings, there are hundreds, unfortunately, locations, movie theaters in which these shootings are taking place. So it gives you a better strategy on how you might respond in those situations also. So basically, what the main goal of ALICE is to present options and to empower the staff and students to make decisions based on the information that is accurate. So the empowering part is the most important part, because traditionally staff was told that if we call the lockdown, that they should lock down and stay in that location. That would be in a joint building like the middle school and high school complex. If there was an active shooter in WRPS, then the kids would be locked down in the gym in the middle school, which we now know doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense, because they can get out of the building and move on and be further away from the danger and safer. So we're changing some of the thought processes we have about the information that's shared, and also giving the teachers the power to make those decisions, and the staff the power to make the decisions of what to do in those situations.
So part of I think we might have missed, ALICE, ALICE is an acronym. It stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. It's an acronym to make it easy for you to remember what it is. But that acronym does not have to be in that order. You can take any part of ALICE and use it at any part, any point in a situation that you feel you need to apply it. So if the first thing is alert, that doesn't mean you have to alert right away. If you need to evacuate right away, you go there. You don't have to go ALICE to follow it down. That's just the acronym we use. So what's a lockdown? So it says in the past, employees, we instructed our staff to just lock the doors and pray for the best. That's not what we want to do anymore. We don't want that to happen. If we go into a lockdown now, it's a different kind of a lockdown. If you have to lock down inside of a classroom, what we expect our staff to do is fully barricade that room. You need to pile everything they can in front of the doors. If there's a device that they can come up with to try and stop that door from opening, we expect our staff to put that in front of the door or attach it to the door to stop the door from opening. And then on top of that, we have the C part where the counter is, and that's where they're going to kind of be ready to, by any chance that somebody gets into that classroom, the staff and students can counter whoever comes into the room. So this is lockdown. This is where you talk about the old school lockdown. This is 1999, this is Columbine. I'm going to play some of the 911 call that came from the library in Columbine. And just based on what we've learned and what we've researched, is this not the best way to handle lockdown. In this situation, you're going to see, right up here, you have your library, which is a huge room, right? You have, over here, your two role plays, your two shooters are right here. But you have an exit right there on the top. Because of an old school lockdown, everybody was trained just to stay where they were. However, if they had gotten up and left, a lot of lives would have been saved. So we're going to play a little bit of the 911 tape. You'll hear the kind of the shocking teacher's voice and everything that goes with it.
Sorry, we tried this earlier today. So, basically the teacher is telling the kids to stay down and to stay out of sight and to hide. And so while they're doing that, the gunman is entering the library. There were several students shot and killed in the library. And at this point in time, it's believed that if perhaps they could have exited that, they would have had a better chance. Try it one more time. Okay. We did try it. So basically, now all the research is showing us that what we were doing was wrong. One of the best examples that we have of maybe trying something different was in Virginia Tech. The Virginia Tech shooter entered the building, and there were 4 classrooms in which most of the shooting took place and most of the injuries took place. In 2 of those classrooms, they did a traditional lockdown, which basically meant shut the door, sit in the corner, and wait. In 2 of the other classrooms, they did some kind of modified barricade, and/or in another classroom, the individual happened to be a Holocaust survivor, and he instructed the kids to jump out the 2nd-story window. All the kids in the classroom with the Holocaust survivor lived. They jumped out. I think there was 1 broken leg. The classrooms where they did the traditional lockdown and sat and waited, they were all injured and/or deceased because they were sitting targets, unfortunately. So research is showing us that what we were doing in the past wasn't necessarily working. So now we are looking on to what else can we do. But unfortunately, there isn't a set move. And that's why we want to basically empower people to think differently about where they are and what their options are. The alert, the A analysis for alert. So being aware of your surroundings, knowing the students that come in and out of the building, knowing the students in their staff, students that come in their classes for the staff. Those are all advantages that we have. Again, in Rockland, we have a very tight, small, knit community. So it's very unlikely that there's people wandering the halls, that people are unaware of it. And we've also changed a little bit with the 911 call and the communication that's out there. Traditionally, it was only one location, the central offices in all the buildings were the places where the phone calls could go throughout the building. We're changing that so that people have the ability to alert from a classroom in different locations. So, you know, if you're in this building and there's a situation in the gym at the middle school, they can alert the entire building that that's where the shooter is, and it gives them that information, and they have that power to do that. And also to give as much information as possible, we don't necessarily worry about confidentiality at that point. If somebody has a gun and they're coming on our campus, we're going to tell everybody who he is, or she is.
I have a question. So can classroom teachers say from the classroom, there's a shooter on 3rd floor, you know, blah, blah, blah? They can make that announcement among the system?
In middle school and high school, yes. And so we're using various systems in the elementary, because their phone system's a little bit older, to alert. We've tried some air horns as a strategy, you know, different strategies that we try to get the sound out to everyone.
What kind of safeguards to prevent false alarms, like kids getting a hold of the phone and monkeying around with it?
The teachers are the only ones with the passcode to give you the system to get into the phone system. And that's secure with the teacher. Try that one more time. Lockdown, as we said, we're getting away from a traditional lockdown, so now we're asking people to barricade. What you see in the right-hand picture is a ratchet strap, for those of you that aren't familiar with it. It was one of the tools that we found actually to be one of the most effective tools in locking down the classrooms. We asked the teachers when we did these drills to bring their own supplies, and believe it or not, a simple ratchet strap works fairly well in preventing access. Just so you understand, when we do these drills, we have the staff in each of their own buildings. We have 5 buildings in 5 very unique situations. So each class, we wanted the teachers to be in those classrooms and in the spaces that they were in to learn like what the issues might be in Memorial Park that they may not have at Jefferson or Essex High School. So we did all of these drills in all 5 buildings separately so the teachers would have an opportunity to try them out. And so what we did was we had 2 police officers who came in and volunteered to work with us, and they had airsoft pellet guns and they had laser pointers. And so the teachers were asked to take these things into consideration and put in a high level of stress because no one wanted to get hit with the airsoft pellet gun because it hurts. And so they made these decisions about how best to barricade under those stressful situations. We try to create that environment as much as possible without getting too stressful. But the ratchet strap was very, very helpful.
Right. So when you go to a lockdown, what we've done with the ratchet straps or any other device that we use to barricade the door, it's a secondary device. Your lock's going to work most of the time, if not all the time. What we want to do is we want to create more opportunity for you to keep people safe. So with shoveling all the desks in front of the doors, putting a ratchet strap in there on a door that opens outwards with enough leverage to stop the door from opening. We just want to create more opportunity to keep the people safe until officers arrive. That's our goal with these straps or whatever the other device it comes up with. If something fails, we want to have other options. We don't want it to be just wait for that door to work and pray and hope that everything works okay. We want to give multiple options. We want to give multiple tools that you can use. On an outward opening door, we really recommend like a ratchet strap. We'll get into some a little bit later on about some other devices that we're looking at. Right. Be creative. We'll show you some of the pictures and we have some videos of what was done. So here we have from the left here. That's an outward opening door in the middle school. All we did was took the table, divided in the door, put the ratchet strap on there. Couldn't even move the door. We did it with the door unlocked just to see how it would work. When we did it, nobody was able to get the door open. We had multiple teachers try. We had people bigger than me, we had people smaller than me. We had everybody try and we couldn't get in. All it takes was just putting that strap on there, putting something wider than the door, and it kept everybody safe. Like I said, we didn't lock the door because we wanted to see how it would hold without anything in there that was supposed to be for manatees not to do it.
This one, you can see the staff took everything that they had in the room and flipped it up. A lot of times you hear, well, elementary classrooms, they're not going to be able to have, because they don't have the big desks, they don't have the big tools. These are the reading center tables that they have in the classrooms. They flip those up the tall way and put all of their other items to barricade that door to the best of their ability and to prevent someone from accessing it or just making it unattractive enough that they would skip that space.
These are, I believe this is Memorial Park. But it takes, not only did it take whatever they could kind of door with tables or chairs or anything else, but a little bit of manpower would help keep that door shut. We weren't able to get in with that either. So it could be done with just a small amount of people, whether it's kids that represent some classroom, maybe you team up as a classroom to have more than one adult in the classroom, one is smaller for the elementary school kids. But there is ways for it to happen.
And then this was one of the more ingenious responses we saw from the staff, and that was at Eston School.
This is up the Eston School. This was the daycare staff. We had just gone over, we did a classroom presentation with everybody before we did the physical part. We had just gone over the classroom with them probably a week before. One of the things we recommend is that if you don't have anything that's solid that you can put in front of it, just put a number of things from basically wall to wall so that you can't open a door. So what they did is, if you can see here, they took all these tables, they lined it up, the doors over there near the water cooler, and they put it to the desk which is against the wall. They put it, they lined it all up, then they got under there, and they created a human chain, and they put pressure against it as well. When our role players were trying to get into that classroom, you could hear them yelling when to push and when to push back. Without any other external device, we were able to not get in. We were not able to get into that room. It worked, and all it took was like 3 people pulled it, if I remember correctly. and it worked perfectly fine. That's all it took. And we had 2 officers try and get in there at the same time, and they were unable to do it.
So the next, we'd like to show you some barricades from the outside. So what you saw with it, what we asked the classroom teachers to take when they were inside, this is what our role players look like, what we saw from the outside in their role. So it's an outward opening door. But as you can see, strings are closed. They barricaded enough that he has to push to get into it.
Mind you, this is a drill where the lock was not engaged. When we asked them to do this drill, we said, don't engage your locks. We want you to try and work in a barricade without having a lock present.
Another thing that unfortunately you can't hear, we also had the role players brought lights so that, again, the staff had an opportunity to hear what the gunman sounded like in the hallway. That was an inward facing door.
These doors, even if you see with a barricade like this, it's not easy for them to get in. So if you're in this classroom, if we have the staff in the classroom with their students, what we recommend, you need to be ready to counter them as they come into this classroom. So you put the barricade in place, which helps delay anybody from entering their room. Now you need to be ready to somehow get back to them, whether it's grabbing something on the desk to throw at them, grabbing chairs to throw at them, whatever you need to do to make it work, do it. That's what the barricade did to help slow it down. And this is at the Jackson School.
And again, you'll see some of the things, one of the things that I noticed watching the video is the gunman, in this case, again, our role player, has to put his gun away in order to try to open this door. They're not going to take the time to do that. They'll move on to another option.
But you see in the first, right there, that's the castle, you know, the classroom, but he didn't get right in. Right, everything was piled up in there. He couldn't easily get in there. He couldn't. So they just put it in there and they hid in the corner. And ideally, we'd like them to come out and try and combat it a little bit.
But we had nothing right.
Right, we had to.
So again, the I analysis for the information, and that's where we're empowering staff and encouraging students obviously age appropriate, to give as much information as possible to 911 or whoever they needed that information to.
So when we talk about the informed, like I said, we're 5 to 7 minutes away. Continual updates are best. We have currently 2 911 systems in Rockland, 2 911 stations. If our 911 gets inundated with phone calls, it's going to ring out. It's a tree. So we're going to go next to Hanover. We're going to go to Abington. And all these other agencies are now going to know that this is going on, and they're going to come and they're going to get us this information. So don't worry about if you call and somebody says, you know, oh, this is Abington, don't hang up and say, okay, I'm looking for Rockland. They're going to get us that information. We're not going to be able to handle the abundance of phone calls that we're going to get in an active shooter situation just at the Rockland Police Station. Those calls are going to keep ringing out. We want that to keep happening so that other agencies know what's going on and they can come help, whether it's in the building if needed or whether it's helping with the traffic flow, whatever we need them for, that's what we have.
We also worked on, with the staff, thinking about their location a little bit better. Classroom teachers and people who work in school systems are very used to using either their hallway or their classroom number. Like I'm in room 142. Well, that's very helpful for even in the Rockland Police because they have toured these buildings, but it's not necessarily helpful if your first responder happens to be from Abington, so you want to try to give more of a strategic location, like I'm in the northeast corner. So we talked about these things with the staff, so they have some thought processes on that too. Counter and distract and disarm is, again, one of those, the concepts that probably gets the most criticism from Alice, but as you can see, this is not our first thought process. It's not the first thing we turn to. It's the worst case scenario, this is how you're going to respond now, thought process. Yes?
When you're informing, do you use the PA systems within the school? How do you let the people say, and that end of the middle school, know something's going on over here in this end of the high school?
Well, the PA will work in the whole school. So, however, if you can't get to it, that's what we want the 911 calls. Whatever means you can get to let people know, whether it's texting to your friends so they can get it out to teachers. There is no wrong way to inform. As long as you're getting information out there, that's beneficial to anybody who gets it, right? Other than maybe the shooter, right? The main point here is just get information out. In this situation, no real information is bad information unless it's totally false. If you see the shooter come by your window, get on the PA and say, okay, tell the teacher to get on it. Do whatever you need to do to get that information out there. Inform is whatever means, by any means necessary to get it out there. We don't want to limit you to say, well, you can only inform by using the PA system, because then we're going to limit the amount of people who are going to get the information. We want to get out to as many people as possible.
So in the counter is one of the concepts that actually we kind of seen at some level, I think, displayed here tonight. The OODA loop, which is what everybody needs in order to make any decision or any action. You have to be able to observe, orient, decide, and act. So you saw that Officer Schnabel and I suddenly couldn't get the audio system, and so we were off guard. And so now we have this presentation, we practiced it today, we're all ready to go, and now we get here, we get play, and the first thing in the video we get to silence in the audience. So all of a sudden, I'm off key, I don't know what to do.
I'm still off key.
Yeah, and he's in the back with me. So that took care of my mood, right? It messed me up. So what little things we can do when there's a gunman in the environment to throw them off, sometimes yelling, screaming, throwing things. We purchased stress balls, I forgot something. Stress balls for every member of the staff in Rockland, and it's a little blue stress ball with Naturally Bulldog on it, of course. It says Rockland Public Schools Alice on it. It serves as a little reminder for them to take away from their training, but it also, we use that as the counter. Again, we had 2 very nice police officers come into the schools and act as our, what do we call them?
Role players.
Role players, thank you. Act as our role players. We do not want to kill them or injure them. So some of the staff, when we started talking about the counter, they're like, oh, I have some rocks. Can I throw them? No. You cannot throw rocks at Officer Casper and Officer Novio, that's bad. So we used these little stress balls. And it was amazing to me how successful those can be. I was filming from inside of the classroom. Now, this is our third or fourth time we've done this on third time we've done this drill. Officer Novio has had stuff thrown at him all 3 times. He's a trained police officer, and spends lots of time making sure that he's an accurate shooter. Watch what the stress balls can do to him. So these classroom teachers, they have their stress balls.
So ideally, they'd be using something a little bit better than stress balls, but that's all you have, that's all you have. I know there are some teachers who have rocks in their classrooms.
Coffee mug.
What? Coffee mug,
Coffee
right?
mug.
Right, that's
So-
one of the desk.
One teacher has, I think she has like a little rock garden. It looks pretty. The kids think it's a rock garden, but no, it's there for her to rifle up people's heads if she needs to. Another one is food pantry items, like cans of soup, stuff like that, that if kids ask, what's this here for? This is for us to give to the people who need it. You can still give to the people who need it, but you're gonna keep it there, maybe the expired ones,
Rotate them.
to throw at the people who you might need to throw at if they come into the building. So it's stuff like that that you need to find things that you can use at any point to help keep you and the kids safe. So we've kind of instructed teachers, I think, outside the box, and some of them are really good at it.
So then this is from the outside perspective. And you can, again, train police officer,
Detective Casper knew those balls were coming, right? He knew that they were going to happen, so he dodged them. Somebody who isn't aware of what kind of encounter we have isn't going to know that they're just going to come to that classroom. They have one thing in their mind, and that's to hurt people. They don't care about anything else. They're going in there. So Detective Casper knew the balls were coming. He kind of took that step back. But he still wanted to take that step back, and it's only a styrofoam ball.
and that was an empty classroom. He was so on edge that he just unloaded his airsoft pellet into an empty classroom. So he was nervous.
Sergeant Obi again getting puzzled with the balls. And they're shooting people with guns, and they're worried about styrofoam balls.
Right.
And the staff was good. They took it seriously. Even as those role players were walking down the hallways, they're still rifling at it. Because and that's what you want them to do in a real situation, right? You don't want to just throw it at them and let them walk by and hope everything's okay. You still want to try and do whatever you can to take them out. We talked about this with all the staff about securing the weapons. So if by chance the shooter we are able to disarm that person, or disarm that person, we don't want, whether it's the teacher, the students, a parent who just happens to be there for the day, to pick up the gun and now become the person holding that weapon. One of the things that we're concerned about is whether it's myself or any of the other officers who show up, now thinking that this is the person who's doing the shooting. We want to make sure that they understand that if by chance they get their hands on this weapon, never pick it up, find something else to put it in. The trash can is ideal, right? You put it in the trash can, you can hold it, wrap your arms around it, or you put the trash can over it so that nobody sees what the weapon is and you can sit on it. Something needs to be done to make sure that and if it's a teacher who feels comfortable, take it and lock it in your desk. There are different options, but we don't want somebody walking around the school now with a gun, even though they're the good guy, because we don't know for sure who the good guy is. We always tell them to keep your hands visible when you're coming out so that they know that you don't have anything in your hands.
Ideally, evacuate and escape is what we want all of the students and staff to be able to do. So based on this new information that they have, they need to take that information and make the decision to get out. This is the best option, the option that gives them the most likelihood of surviving an incident is to evacuate. So to get out and to get as far away from it as possible.
And that's what Kathy had said in the beginning. The first thing she said was, if there's a shooter, say it's over here in the cafeteria of the middle school, we don't want all the kids that are sitting over in the high school area near the studios or the old English or the English hallway, those hallways, to just lock down and wait. We want them to be out. We want them to be gone. And if we can't find them right away, that's okay. Because that means
Sorry, I just had a question. So how, if all the kids are supposed to evacuate, obviously they're all old enough to do so
Yep.
and follow protocol, what about the preschool?
preschool will be with staff. They wouldn't just evacuate.
Okay, so what about the autistic children that are there, that there's not enough staff to
In the preschool?
pick up a
Are you talking in
child?
the preschool?
Yeah,
There's not enough, I would think that there'd be enough staff to,
We also, when we've done fire drills and those kind of things, there have been designated staff members from guidance who go over and assist.
So if this occurred, do you have staff that are gonna run to the preschool?
Run to preschool to help the preschool evacuate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some staff that's their assignment.
Because I know that there's students in there that they're not gonna know what's going on anyways. Whether it's alarms going off or,
right, and that's it. And then in those situations, because of their age anyways, what those kids will do typically is they will blindly follow who they're there with, their teachers. So we hope that they follow.
not all autistic children.
No, you're right, not all autistic children. And we have to do our best with what we have. I'd love to say that I can guarantee you that we're gonna have a one-for-one for every autistic child in a situation like that, but I can't do that for you. I'd love to say that we can give you a one-for-one in an emergency situation. There's how many kids in the preschool? Right, so it's tough for us to get that. Let's just get through the slides, and then if you get those questions afterwards, I'm perfectly happy answering them, but we want to try and get through this.
Well, again, remember the classroom teacher's going to be making that decision, and maybe based on that classroom, the best response is to barricade and lock down. So they're going to have that choice. We're not saying you must evacuate if it's here, because we're not in that room at that point in time. That's the classroom teachers are empowered to have that decision.
And we have done drills, whether it's a fire drill or evacuation drills, and they've been able to get all the kids out. So the whole point of us doing the drills is so we create that muscle memory, that routine on how to handle these. And so if the teacher stays calm, the teacher does what they do in a drill, they'll be able to get them out like they can in a real life situation. That's the whole point of the drills, is to create that routine so that they remember what to do and they kind of go with the flow on it. This is an evacuation at, and the audio unfortunately isn't working, but this is an evacuation drill at the Jefferson School. So we have the shooters chasing them down the hallway. We're just having them evacuate only. We're not having them do anything else. You can't hear it, but in this drill, I started down, this is an evacuation drill, no barricading, because all of a sudden doors started closing. I honestly was getting frustrated. I said, why are people not listening to me? I said, this is an evacuation drill, get out of the building. Well, they actually thought outside the box, they did an awesome job. What you had some teachers do is they closed the door, barricaded, locked the door, quick barricade, jumped out the window. They were out the window faster than anybody else went through the building. And they thought outside the box, and they want to make sure they get out safely, and any students that they had with them would have been able to get out safely. They put the teacher through the window first, and then they had the teacher came through last. So they were able to come out with a great plan to get everybody out of the building. This is a, so we did 5 to 6 scenarios when we did each training. We broke it down bit by bit. First thing we did when we did the training was we did an old school lockdown. We made everybody just sit in their classroom with the door closed, but not locked. And our role players would come in and just start firing the gun. The purpose of that was for people to understand or feel how helpless you are when you just sit there and do nothing. That is counted everything we've taught in Alice now. One of the other drills we do a barricade one. We would do just a barricade. We wouldn't do any countering. We wouldn't do anything else. We would do the evacuation drill just by itself. We did the countering just by itself. We did all these pieces bit by bit, and then at the end, we threw it all together, and we just said, figure out what you guys want to do. We let them figure it all out. You guys decide. Here's the scenario. We get on the PA system. We have gunshots going off in the hallways. It was controlled chaos. And a lot of people evacuated. So once they had evacuated, we then had them come back in, and we were going to debrief. We're going to debrief in here. So this is the main entrance of the high school. What they don't know,
It's a video off of the camera.
this is off the cameras. What they don't know is that I had 2 officers hiding in closets with weapons. When they came through with the blanks, they started firing off the weapons. We find this funny because we went through it. I don't know if you guys will, but we like to show that they all know this is a training, but watch their reaction when it's just a training. They're all just trying to funnel in to get to the auditorium for the main entrance of the high school. Look at the guy in the yellow shirt. Some of you might know him. He just showed a barrel through everybody that was there. But they all took it seriously, which was great for me. I was really happy that everybody took it seriously, Nobody really walks out. I mean, you see people come out a little bit later, but even then, they're moving at their own pace, but they're moving fast, right? They're not just sitting there. We had a new teacher who was brand new to the school. She found a closet, she hid in it, we didn't know she was there for a while. There were people who went everywhere, so we really had to kind of round everybody up afterwards, but it did its job. Now it's only in 3 hours of training. They're all already able to think outside the box, react to the noise of the gunshots, come up with different ideas.
So one of the questions that always gets asked is, again, like, how are we gonna, if this were to happen and you're advising everybody to evacuate, get far away from it, what are we gonna do about student pickup? Student pickup is gonna be decided, and the parents will get instructions through the phone, ConnectEd, sorry, lost the word, through the ConnectEd system. And so the police and fire are not gonna allow you access to the school that's involved. So it's not gonna do you any good to head to that location. You will be given instructions at the time where that location is, a secondary pickup and rendezvous location. And it, you know, that depends on which building. There are all kinds of variables that have that. Depending on the threat, the student pickup, they're not going to allow anybody down here. I always joke a little bit that if this were to happen at the high school, that half of my students may be at Nantasket Beach because they're going to hop in their cars and they're going to get as far away from it as they can. Not being able to find those students that are at Nantasket Beach will be the best thing that would happen to me that day, because they're at the beach and they're having, you know, maybe having a sunburn or something like that. But they're not in the building. If there were an active shooter in the building, they're gone. So we'll figure that out.
So we have,
Oh, wait, no, because we already saw it.
yeah, we had a 5-minute video that kind of breaks down Alice bit by bit. It's actually really well done. If anybody's interested, it's Massachusetts Juvenile Police Officers Association. It's about a 7-minute video. It's done by Bennett Cannon. But it really breaks down Alice again, just kind of puts it all together.
And shows you some of the steps with high school students involved. So one of the things that we want you to walk away with this concept of Alice is that we're not asking anyone to go out of their way to like attack a gunman, counterattack the gunman. The goal of Alice is to empower the staff to make the decisions based on the most information that they have. It's the best for them and their students. What's the best option for you and your students? Maybe if you have students who have some mobility issues, maybe it is lockdown. Maybe if you have, you know, other issues, and, you know, evacuation is your best option. But based on what your classroom teachers know your kids better than anyone else. So who am I, if I'm in the administration office, to get on the PA system and tell someone, you know, what to do in this situation? You must do this. That's bad advice. We want to empower them to make those decisions based on the information that we provide.
And make no mistake about it, despite our transition to Alice, the old lockdown isn't totally horrible. That's still part of Alice. We just give other options. So, like I said, if there are classrooms, there are mobility issues, you lock down and you barricade, and you set yourself up to be totally ready to go, you'll be fine. The locks are going to work. You should be okay. But we just have to make sure there's other options than just that lockdown.
So we are going to start eventually with the high school first. We're going to start involving some of the students in some of the trainings. Obviously, age-appropriate trainings. The staff are the only ones who get the airsoft pellet guns. Sorry, those are the staff who don't want to stuff in the shop. Yeah. So, but there's also a children's book out there, and it's supported by Allison. It says, "I'm not scared, I'm prepared." So this might help you have a conversation with some of your children at younger ages about, you know, how they can respond to these situations. And so those conversations will be starting to happen, so you might want to start having them with your children.
It wouldn't be bad if you look up this book and maybe read it with your kids for that elementary school, obviously not the high school kids. And it is good. All these trainings will be age appropriate. We will be a little bit more intense with the high school kids, actually a lot more intense with the high school kids than we will be with the elementary school kids. It's just going to be, we just can't do it exactly the same way with all of them.
One of the other things is that there is going to be a special article in the town warrant to add to some security devices. As you saw, we have some doors that go in, some doors that go out, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted to do it with each individual building to see what those issues are. Officer Schnabel has worked closely with the fire department, and we've done some researches, and these are some of the information will be covered. Yeah.
I wanted to, when I took over the role of the school resource officer, I wanted to find some way to secure a door and make it so it was safe for everybody. And I ran it by the fire department, I ran it by the building inspector at the time. We went through it all. There are tons of different devices that are out there. You see them on the internet. Well, get this, it's great. Or get this, it'll work perfect. And they will. They won't let you into the room. The problem is they won't let us into the room either. So I needed to find something that had a way for me to get into the room, or the fire department, or anybody else who's emergency responders, to get in there if we needed to. So these are the devices that, after some research and some testing, this is what we found, this is what we're looking to use.
So the first one is the door without the,
This is an inward opening door without any device on it. Mind you, this is not the way most people try and break through the doors in a shooting situation. One blow of that and he was able to get in. There was no device on there, there was just a typically locked door. This is in the Lincoln School, this is not any of our current classrooms. So now we installed this device on the door, and then Simon Novio again tries to get in. So you see, Sergeant Novio's not a small guy. He trains in SWAT. He does breaches with doors. He uses that device to get in the doors all the time. He said 1 to 2 blows gets into any door. You see the door itself would start to fail before the device failed. Unable to get into that door. And I was beyond excited that that worked, because I was really unsure of whether or not this device was going to work. Amazingly it worked. We couldn't get in, and it did what it was supposed to do. This is now an outward opening door. This is with the device on. I did not have a video with one with the device off. With the device off, he would have already been in. So I had the maintenance staff with me. We walked through it all. We followed the directions on the installation, made sure it was in. He couldn't get in at all with that. So on an outward opening door, it does the same thing. The device works. This is what I like to use. We thought it would be good for you guys to see it, just in case you might have to go to town to get a vote in favor of it. It's a night lockdown device. They have a couple of different ones, but this is really the best one that we felt worked for us. They sell residential ones. There's a couple other kinds that open on different doors, different ways. But like some of these other ones you see, I think it's like a barricade out there, a barracuda or whatever they call them. You slide it in, you put a pin in it on the inside. And once it's there, there's no way to get in. And I talked with the principal in the neighboring district who has them. He says it's great, nobody gets in. I said, what's your plan though? What's your plan in case you need to get in? So we just show up with some saws. I don't want to be coming in with a saw. I want to be able to get in there quickly. And I'm not going to show you the device, but there's a way for us to get in quickly with this. I can guarantee you that. Okay. We had some other stuff with the audio not working. I apologize, but are there any questions?
Yes? No. Got it. Yes. I'll help you, Rick.
Evacuation drill! Evacuation drill! evacuation drill, not a barricade.
I'm out of bullets. Good thing I'm out of bullets.
Let's go, go, go.
Now,
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't get hit once. Get hit once.
Someone's gonna tap in. Somebody say sorry.
No one's even know.
Anybody in that room?
Someone's gonna. That's a room that's in play.
Good place to go.
Yeah, because I don't know. Ready? Go. Yeah, can we go on track?
That's impressive.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Substitute teachers in the event, because I know what's there.
we have implemented a Alice handout. We have the substitute teachers read and get a little background on Alice, and they sign off that they have received that. And they, the high school and the middle school, I can speak only really kind of the high school just because it's where I work. The key that locks down the classroom, they receive that along with the condition.
Because last time when it happened, the lockdown right after Florida, a friend of mine worked here as a substitute teacher and she didn't know how to walk the door. I know it's actually a lot of problems.
And based on that feedback, that's when we, develop these things. You can't always, unfortunately, predict everything, so based on that information, we now have put these Alice sheets out as part of what the substitute receives.
But do they know, like, is there a key?
Yeah, there is a key.
And they know where the key is?
It's part of what is given to them when they come in with the Alice folder and the key. So yes, they get the key.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are any steps being taken to address like entry into the building for people? I know hitting the buzzer,
Right.
the buzzer in, and you're open to the building.
Yeah, that is one of the things that it's, like I said, since I've been here, it's kind of one of the things that Dr. Harris and I have talked about. Some of the ways we've, in the past, you saw over by the super's office, that was an entry in the morning, that's no longer an entry in the morning. We've restricted the flow into a certain area. We're always talking about ways to improve the entry into the building. I agree with you that buzzer is a challenge. We have somebody there to keep eyes on it, but it's something that Dr. Harrison and I have already started to work on. But we've limited the amount of time that other doors are open. We usually walking around checking to see if doors are pegged open by kids trying to run up to their car. Basically, safety and security comes from everybody, and I just mentioned this to a couple of students recently. We need them to be on top of it too. Seeing if somebody comes in that they don't recognize, don't hold the door for somebody they don't know. Stuff like that. We need them to help us kind of keep them safe. But I do agree with you that is one of the areas we're going to look at. So you probably have a question.
I was just going to ask what information and how you explain it to elementary school children can share.
That's going to be honestly, my plan for that is classroom by classroom basis. We're not going to do a big seminar where we sit and say, all right, kids, this is what we're doing. It's going to be a rollout that we're going to do one by one. We're going to do each teacher that will have a better idea of what their students are like. I'd love to say, well, I'm going to do it for every student the same thing, but each class has a unique personality for me to say, yeah, I'm going to do this class this way. I know just from going into some of these classrooms that I can't do what I did with this classroom, with this classroom. And that's been different from grade 1 all the way up to grade 4. It's going to be totally different. I wish I had a footprint that I could say to you, this is the way we're going to play it out. But it does depend on who the kids are.
What they do practice evacuation drills or anything?
Currently we do evacuation drills. We've done a lockdown. What was that?
What are they told during?
For elementary?
Holiday.
So oftentimes we may say that it would be a windstorm or something like that, that we would have to lock down for. So we need to stay away from the windows and do all of that. Very simple, basic language.
We don't want to overwhelm them and make it anyone committed. It is. Part of that is now where we're talking about with this book, where we really need the parents to help us start to prepare for this training that we're going to have.
And all the elementary principals and middle school assistant principal, they were all trained in this also. So they were part of the outside training that we went through. So they're able to help us understand a little bit more their classrooms and their buildings and the issues that are unique to them. So they assisted us with all the trainings of the staff, and obviously we assisted us with anything in the schools.
Yeah, when you look at early elementary, we're really training staff, and the kids will follow their teachers, and that's what happens.
It's a really scary thing to talk to your kids about when you're also trying to teach them that school is a safe place.
So it's more training of the staff as it has been in the past, but also, giving different options and practicing those options.
I have two elementary age kids myself, and I completely understand the challenge of it because my fourth grader is all questions. So I completely get that one.
I just don't get the idea of the barricade with people right behind the door because in case the guy decides to shoot, I don't think that's safe to have people right, on the position.
Right, you don't want to break down the door. I understand that, but this is to keep them out of the door. And these aren't little doors that you have at your house. These are pretty solid doors. Then on top of that, ideally, I don't want somebody right in front of the barricade if they can help it. But sometimes you might have to. So if we just told them put that barricade there and run away and just hope for the best, then we're not preparing them to do what they need to do. Right? So if we put that barricade there and they realize that they might need to put a little bit of muscle power behind it to keep that barricade there, to keep the children safe, that might be what they're going to have to do. It's kind of a catch-22. Like I said, there's no perfect answer here. There is no answer that will work. All right, to you, sir. There is no clear-cut answer for everything. But these are just some of the ways that we can try and come up with to keep people out of the
So in that case, children would never be over there, right? Just
children not
staff.
going to barricade them in.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
It seems to me like that knowing where this intruder is the biggest challenge. So we have cameras in the building, is there any way that we can,
Oh, we have tons of cameras.
so how come we can't tell from outside the building where the intruder is? Why are we relying on people to call us from inside?
I don't know. What do you mean from outside the building?
Is there any way for the police outside the building to know, looking inside, where the intruder is?
We have cameras at the police station. The cameras at the schools are wired into the police station. However, there are roughly wish I had. How many?
120.
120 cameras in the building. This building alone, yeah, right. So just for us to be able to mark through every single camera, you're gonna have to go through everyone, to look at it realistically, 2 to 3 minutes to get through every camera. So if I go to camera 1, by the time I get to camera 120, 3 minutes later, they moved over 14 different cameras. So I
I
get it.
didn't know that.
Yeah, no, and that's why, yeah, and I'm just explaining the challenges of the cameras, and that's, a lot of people think if you look at the cameras, you can find them on camera. You need 120 monitors with 120 people watching them. That's really the only way to rely on a camera to work effectively, all the time. But they're good to have, they do work, but it's just not, the best way for you to get information is from people who are seeing it. Somebody else?
Do you communicate with like the school buses?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
you know, like, if something was occurring already and the bus was coming, obviously you report to them not to show up here?
That's correct. We're not telling people. We don't want anybody else showing up. It's just like we put on there, we're gonna tell all the parents to go to another location to pick up.
Yep.
We don't want anybody else coming up, and they're probably not gonna get anywhere near there, because if there's a situation going on, you're gonna have a ton of emergency vehicles there blocking the entrance into the area anyways.
And that's for the,
Any school.
Yeah, I was trying
Whether
to
it's the
say.
small buses or the big buses, the van, the people transport van, or the full yellow buses.
now wouldn't you think that the preschool kids being dropped off in the morning, they get dropped off up front? I don't know what afternoon is, but the preschool kids get dropped off and they go through the high school.
Mhm.
Isn't that like a safety issue?
No,
No?
I don't think so. They're actually, they're right within that door within
But
10 steps.
But if something was to occur, we're putting the kid in the high school when we don't do that.
The-
They're not in the high school during the day. They're
Well-
lost in their own.
But that's still in the high
hallway.
school. But that's still in the high school. I mean, they're still in the same building. We're
Right.
not asking them to walk through a building they wouldn't normally be in, right? We're asking them to come right in through a door, they come right in a doorway that's safe. Staff is right there. I see them every day. They're waiting right there.
Oh yeah, oh no, the staff is there.
Yep, so they're in and they're out. It's actually, I really think it's actually one of the safer ways for us to do it with all of our options that we have. And Dr. Cron and I talked about this probably a year ago when we looked at where's the best way to get them in. Dr. Harrison was involved with that too, and we really felt this was the best way to get them in and out.
We have a protocol for the special education vans. One radio word, they know not to come to the school.
Yeah, and they know, obviously so how does that work for the parent? If like, they were notified that, this is happening, how do I know where to get my kid?
Oh, we'll let you know.
Like,
That's the Connect Ed.
That's exactly, we have a couple of spots where we've talked to people that will allow us to use as an overflow.
oh, okay,
And we'll let you know, because we might say, just for hypothetical, something happened here, we're not gonna go to Memorial Park.
right,
But if something happened at Eston, we're finding the way to get to Memorial Park, we might do that.
okay.
So each one is different based on where it happens, what's going on. Or,
Just say one thing, the sped van, the special education vans, the one word tells them, they all know where to meet. So someone will meet with them, meet them, and then give them instructions from there, so
Okay,
that's all.
thank you.
Yep.
I know the preschool one has at least one set of double doors. I was wondering if there's a set at the opposite end, if they lock, and if there's similar doors throughout all the schools.
right, the preschool does have that double set of doors. Throughout the whole district-wide, there are not double sets of locking doors throughout the building, no. That's unique to that area there. And we don't seclude essentially like the first grade wing from the second grade wing. We don't seclude like the English hallway from the foreign languages that are in the hallway. You can't lock that on a regular flow, we just, you can't really.
Someone else had a question?
What about the locker?
No, they go to our secondary location.
Right, because remember, if there's an evacuation, there's going to be not only the students evacuating, but staff, so there's going to be lots of adults giving the information, and the communication is going to be with the staff.
Ideally, we want the parents to come take them so that they feel reassured.
Another question?
When something like this starts to happen, what gets sent to each classroom? Is there like a central information that gets sent to each classroom, and then each classroom is on their own? Or is the information constantly being sent to the classrooms And at the same time, is this information sent out on this NetEd to the parents? I only ask because I have 3 kids in the schools, and all 3 got 3 different pieces of information in their individual classrooms, and then they're texting us, telling us what's going on, 3 different things, and they're freaking out, and they're looking for us for answers. So there's a lot of information that flows around that isn't necessarily the right information.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the challenges that we face, right? So all this information that flows out there. So in the last incident we had 7 or 8 different scenarios that went out there. We had staff members who were supposedly hurt, that was on social media. So whatever we put out there, the challenge we have is to let other people who aren't informed put out there and create this bad information. So in that last situation that we had,
From the school, they got 3 different sets of information.
from the school they did?
In 3 different classrooms, they're getting 3 different pieces of information from their instructor.
Okay. 3 different things. So I think I understand where you're going, and I know what you're talking about with the scenario. Right? So you have 3 different things. We went to a shelter in place in that scenario. Shelter in place means basically lock your doors, continue about your business. That business can be teaching a class, it can be playing games. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe the principals are overly concerned about what happens within that classroom in terms of whether it's a lesson plan or playing bingo. As long as the door's locked and those kids are safe, that's our goal in that situation. Now, I understand that there was one room where a teacher might have gone and put it into a lockdown, full lockdown. I have no issue with that. And I believe I'm on the same page as some other people here. It might have been a little extreme, but at the end of the day, my concern is to make sure that that child's safe. And if a teacher's going to go into a lockdown instead of just a shelter in place, that's okay in my book. Because what they've done is make sure nobody's coming into that classroom. And that's our goal when we go to that shelter in place. Stay where you are and don't let anybody in. If a teacher wants to take it to the next step, I'm okay with that. We might have to, there's no matter how this plays out, there was anxiety for the people who stayed in the shelter in place. There was anxiety for the people who went to that group that went into a full lockdown. And I use this analogy with some other people. I train in law enforcement one way. I'm not doing the one who trains in it. There are about 30 to 40 of us at times who trains in that way. But we don't all handle that crisis situation exactly the same way. I might handle it one way, and then my partner next to me might be just a little bit differently. But our end goal is still the same, to make sure everybody's safe. And I think that's what the teacher's goal in that situation there was, to make sure everybody was safe. I believe your kids were safe, were they not?
No, they definitely were.
That's what our concern is in those situations.
But I
I
guess
think
sorry.
the information that's going to come out is probably going to be more at the end of this. You know, I think a day later, almost, is when you, or when you're picking up your child is when we may be able to give you the most accurate information. Because we are asking people to give us various information, so some of the information that the administration and the police may be receiving may not be 100% accurate either. So it takes time to kind of weed that out. So I think that may have led to some of the confusion. I mean, everybody, no matter how much you're training it, everybody gets anxious and their anxiety level increases. And so therefore, as Officer Stable said, slightly different interpretations of things happen. So,
I mean, not to belabor, shelter in place means shelter in place, not locked.
It means stay in place.
Sure.
In the lockdown, like I said, I have no issues with that teacher. If she went into a lockdown and she put something in front of the door to make sure nobody came in, I'm okay with that. I didn't, might be differently, but I'm okay with it because you know what happened? Nobody got into that classroom. And if somebody was going to try and get into it, they probably weren't going to get into that classroom. I'm okay with it. It might create a little bit more of a heightened state for the people who are involved with it. But I honestly, I'm okay with it. They need to do what they can to keep people out. And if you just kind of take a little bit more, that's okay. You're doing what you can to keep people safe. That's our main goal.
What is the difference between shelter in place and lockdown?
So the shelter in place is where we say we keep going, we keep rolling with what we have going on for classrooms. Pardon me?
As far as the situation,
Well-
obviously lockdown is a concrete shooter in the building.
Right.
What would be a shelter in place?
A threat of potentially something going on. So in this, we had our incident here a couple of weeks ago. There was a threat. We knew where we needed to go to contain that threat. We knew I knew what we needed to do. So we went to a shelter in place until restrict movement within the hallways at that time.
We'll also use a shelter in place for something as fundamental as there's a student in a classroom who needs to be taken out on a stretcher. We'll shelter in place just to keep the hallways empty, to not embarrass the child. So shelter in place just means we're keeping the hallways restricted and teaching continues, but it allows us to say escort a student out or deal with a problem quietly. That's the biggest difference.
Way to put it.
We also may use that if there were something like, again, like I said, outside, like a pound, if there was an incident. We didn't want the kids going through the halls, you know, we would say shelter in place for that.
We do that if a bank robbed uptown. We'd say, go ahead, shelter in place. That way nobody's coming in.
What is the school doing proactively to keep this from happening? What steps are being taken? Some schools are using programs that monitor social media. Some schools have apps that parents can download to their phones and text searching over school to prevent bullying or violence. So I think it's great to be prepared, but what are we doing to prevent it?
Well, I think that Rockland's made a lot of progress in that as far as looking at some of our mental health issues. There's an adjustment counselor in all of our schools, which has been in the past 3 years, I want to say. So we're trying to take care of those things. We also, again, are very fortunate as far as the relationships that we have with the students. And that's something that we also are constantly evaluating and assessing. Like if there's a student who doesn't make a connection with, you know, someone within the high school, then we usually try to figure out like, okay, you know, who's got so-and-so that, you know, as their contact person, you know, who's that person's trusted buddy, a trusted adult in the building. So we try to help the students identify those trusted adults in the building, and then if they cannot identify that trusted adult, then we make ourselves that. And try to encourage those kinds of opportunities and for those kind of relationship building. That's the best way to, you know, make the students feel the safest to have those connections. And I personally believe that everybody's very connected within this community, so there is a lot of opportunities for those connections. So that's one of the things that
We're a Google district, so we use Google exclusively, and there's a product called Gaggle. And Gaggle is doing tracking work, so we're exploring the cost of adding that to our service. The Gaggle would web track for certain keywords, so we're working at that. We also screen every student in the middle school who may have potential mental health, particularly self-harm issues. We have 5 mental health experts, 1 in every building, which is about 100 times more than any of our colleagues do. We invest a great deal in preventative. And I also think about school programs like Steps to Respect and our work with PBIS. All of these things are safety procedures and things that we're working with the kids on. So it's a system-wide setup. I think what Ms. Paulding is saying though is you can have all the hardware in place. We meet with police and fire and our emergency team on a regular basis, and we tabletop different scenarios. What would you do? We can have all these procedures in place and these mechanisms, blocking the doors, the electronic lockdowns, all of these technicalities. But the thing that truly keeps us safe, as Paul is saying, is our relationships. We want the kids to come in and say, you know, Uncle Buck's a little off today, and he has a really big gun collection. That's what we want. We want trust. We want relationships. Because those are the preventative things. And I think police agree that their relationships with people on the street and relationships that Officer Schnabel has with kids really keeps us safe. But believe me, we are dotting and crossing our T's with all of the things that we can do. But we could sit here and come up with a list of mile-long scenarios. You prepare the best you can, and then you hope for the best. But we're not leaving any stones unturned. So I do hear what you're saying about the software for tracking. But we do invest a lot in social emotional wellness, which is a real prevention tool. Because again, we know from Florida that identifying someone's emotional instability didn't keep anyone safe. They knew the kid was nuts. The FBI knew that this kid was off the hook and had specific threats, and it still didn't stop it. So, you know, we are, believe me, we are trying as a school community and as a town to really develop as comprehensive a system as we can. This was what I did my doctoral research in, school safety, and I can tell you that we are doing everything physically possible to keep our kids and our staff safe. And the rest of it, the real variable is what kind of relationships do we have with our kids and our parents. That's the bigger variable in my mind. But keep the questions coming, because you may ask something that triggers another thing that we try, but we are working together. Yeah.
Is there any chance that we could have a full-time SRO inside the high school?
There is.
Full-time?
Yeah. He's full-time.
Yep,
In
that's
fact, we're
right.
talking about the possibility of a second, and one of the things that I'm very hot on is putting a human being at every door in every school, at the front door. It sounds simple, but it's not. It's expensive. And then the question becomes, do you want an additional math teacher, or do you want a person at every door? Do you want class sizes of 22, or do you want a person at every door? And then people say, well, how about putting retired military at the doors? Well, that's an option, but they're not, in my mind, any better prepared to do the job of sitting at the front door than, say, someone who knows every kid in town and is able to say, hey, Joe, how you doing today? Well, I don't recognize that kid. So we're working at those things. And I think having a face at the door is a really big deal and something that we want to do. So we may be posting opportunities for any of you who have some free afternoons or mornings.
It's impossible for a volunteer.
Absolutely. But they have to be quarried, and then again, you have to be, we need people that are smart with people, right? People skills. Because again, it really is about knowing every kid. Because one kid might be off the hook all the time, and that's their normal. So when they come in all like this one day, someone should say, what's up with Joe today? But so we need people who are emotionally intelligent, who really know the kids and that kind of thing. But volunteers are definitely an option.
We have another question in the back.
Yeah, actually, it's two-part. As a parent of children in Rockland, I will say I'm around the school various times, and I always see a police officer here. So thank you. Because that means a lot to us. I don't know if you guys get that or not. You probably don't. No. But for those that see you guys, thank you. The other part is,
Did you just butter me up for the second half? You buttered me up for the second half?
the second part is we won't call the same for the break of the class as it is in class. Because
Good question.
if class breaks at 9:05, it's a lot different than 8:55 when everyone's in their seat.
Right.
So if we're going to use ratchet straps to lock doors, if we do all 55 doors at 9:10, everyone's in the hallway with the safety limit to the joy.
Right. So, and that was why we did that last really felt kind of like that chaos. Our goal there was to simulate change of periods. And that was one of the things we wanted them to start to think about was, what do you do? I mean, this is all well and good when we teach you, all right, everybody's sitting in class, you're going through your lesson plan, you have the overhead on and everything's great like that, but what do you do if this is happening in between periods? Lunchtime.
Lunches.
Yeah, dismissal, coming in at the beginning of the day, any of that. We had to think about that, so we did that. And the plan is for go wherever you can, right? So you jump into that classroom, the teachers are supposed to peek outside real quick before they close the door. So if there's people running in, they don't want to just say, all right, you two come in and I'm closing the door. You say, all right, you 20 come in and I'm closing the door. So they're not just supposed to just shut that door and say, all right, you guys are screwed. There's supposed to be a plan there. Yeah.
When did you start to implement with the staff, the trainings and all?
We started last spring. We did the classroom time at the end of, towards the springtime. And we started to roll it out school by school for the hands-on scenarios. It's tough to find the time. It was tough for us to find the time to do it where it was we did professional development days before school started or once the school year got going. And my main goal when I did this was I wanted to make sure everybody trained in their school. I didn't want Memorial Park teachers to just go and train anywhere and just go train in Aspen. I wanted them to train where they're familiar, where they're going to be all the time. So if I said to Memorial Park staff, well, come over to Aspen, we'll train you over there, that doesn't help them learn what they need to do within their own environment. And that's why it's taken a while for us to get it going.
So you haven't done any, you haven't rolled it out with the students at all?
That's why we're here with you guys first.
You guys first.
Yep, parents first, and then we'll go out next to the students.
Seems like a long time for me.
Yes, it
I
is.
understand, it's a huge undertaking.
It's a process, it is,
Yeah.
and we've talked with other districts, we've talked with other places, trying to make sure that we're kind of consistent, and it's not something that just happens overnight. Like I said, I've talked to some other instructors that I went with, and they're right about the same pace where we're at.
Getting back to the training of the students, I totally understand that you can't have the same type of training with the different grades and so on and so forth. But with the high school, obviously, like you said, you can't shoot. But what, how do you scare them enough to get them into, to know what to do when they're in that situation?
Without having to, like, gone through it yet with them, like when we did our first training, it's a learning process for us too, because the first time we did it, like, this is a great idea. No, it wasn't. We learned quick. There was a couple things we thought were great ideas, and it just didn't work. I think the high school kids are aware of how dangerous the situation
I think they're
is.
scared.
Right, I think they're, unfortunately, I think that, you know, they're kids, they're old enough that they're seeing it on the news and they're watching it on the news. These are conversations they're having all the time. I often say that, like, you know, I was a Cold War child, you know, so I remember sitting on the swings and being with, like, my best friend and said, like, oh, a new kid, where would you run? You know, and, like, these are, you know, silly conversations that you have, like, now as an adult looking at it, really, like, I mean, it's really. But the kids are having these conversations about what would you do. So we're just going to be guiding them through that process. I think they're already scared enough they're going to take it seriously.
But they're still not, in my opinion, they're still not taking it seriously enough to speak up all the time. Because being, you know, not being that snitch, and believe me, I get it as much from adults as I do from the kids. No one wants to be a snitch. And we're trying to get people to understand, if you see something that looks wrong, you have to speak up. If you see something, say something. So this message, anytime you can reinforce that with your kids, we really appreciate it. Because the smartest, most mature high school student will still hesitate to make a scene. You know, the entire universe is revolving around them, right? I have a 13-year-old, it's mind-boggling. So getting them to speak up is really important.
Dr. Harrison.
Sure, just to follow up on your question, I've done this training with students before, and we did what we call a soft rollout. So as the principal, I could get on a speaker and say, this is Mr. Harrison, this is the drill. There's an active shooter by the gym. And what would happen is that the students on the first floor far away from the gym would evacuate, the students in the gym would barricade. We would train the students through a soft rollout where they would know it's a drill. Every time we would repeat, this is Mr. Harrison, this is a drill. And then what they would do, every student in a soft rollout would go through a lockdown barricade, would go through an evacuation, so they get a feel for each scenario based on the situation.
Which is similar to the way we train the staff. We want to have them learn scenario by scenario.
So who should we communicate with here?
You can, any staff, anybody at the high school, you can call the main office, there's somebody who will answer. I have an email address.
On weekends,
Call the police station. If there's a threat you feel is urgent and it's after hours, call the police station. We have officers there all the time who can go and start the investigation. They will contact me and I will usually come in and help out with the investigation if it involves a high school student. I have an email address. You can reach out to me through email if you have concerns. Admittedly, I check it probably every hour on the weekends just to make sure there's nothing going on that I need to know about.
And if that is emailed SRO at Rockland Schools.
Well, we do need an anonymous report system, or that's a need that we have. We need to develop an anonymous report system and a sort of 24-hour, you see something weird, you call this number, just for the situations you're talking about, a weekend or a nighttime. So these are things that we're adding.
But if I would say that if there is an immediate threat, if there's something that pops up, just call 911. If you call the station, and we'll send an officer to investigate it. Well, if you have information, we'll come to you, take as much in as we can, and then we'll start the investigation process. Through the detectives and myself, we'll figure it out. Any other questions?
In the middle of all this chaos, or something like that, how quickly will the parents be informed of something going on?
I'd love to give you, and Dr. Cronin showed his speak to this better than I could, but it's kind of a rollout as it goes. We have to make sure that everybody's safe.
Yeah, so in this last scenario, we went into lockdown, we got a call from the news station. The Rockland Police got a call from the news station saying that there may be, there's a threat. We went into lockdown, into shelter in place immediately. Within 45 minutes, we had all the information we needed, and I sent out a Connect Ed at 1:25. So the whole thing began in less than an hour, but then I finally was able to sit down, because signing into the system that we use is incredibly tedious. So sometimes parents are gonna feel helpless. And I'm gonna ask you that if your kids are sending you texts and saying, this is going on, I suggest you say, just relax. And when they're able to tell you what's going on, they will tell you. You know, anything you could do to calm them down, because we're busy trying to communicate with one another, police, fire, whoever else is involved, and not, in this case, we knew there wasn't an immediate safety issue. So in some cases, you're trying to preserve an investigation, so you know what's going on. So just wait until we communicate with you, and we will do that as quickly as possible. But in this past scenario, you had a message within 50 minutes of the thing starting, which doesn't sound comforting in today's world where we know everything immediately. And just try sitting quietly for a whole minute and you go out of your mind. So I get it, it feels helpless, but this is where we need to earn your trust so that you know that, again, physically we're doing everything we can, and the other part is the trust of the kids and the parents and the families, and we will communicate with you as soon as possible. We don't want to send you bad information either, right? So I don't know if that answered your question.
I was just thinking, like, if it was really like an active shooter, it's not, what had
Right.
last night. Someone actively in the school, and my daughter going out and not having an elementary school student. So she's texting.
Yeah. It's terrifying, I'm sure. It's terrifying. But remember, at that point, we are now in a paramilitary situation. This has stopped being a school, and it's started being a place where maintaining life is the primary function. That means you may be locked in, your child may be locked in a classroom for 6 hours with no toilet, and they are going to use a trash can, and they are probably not, and they're not going to be able to go to the bathroom because no one leaves the room. And it sounds so outlandish, but when this happens, we are no longer a school. We are now a paramilitary situation. And what we're thinking about is saving as many lives as possible. So communicating with you, believe me, I know it's important. I spent a lot of time after this last incident communicating with parents. Just please try to be patient and understand that the priority, right? Our priority is to keep everyone safe. And then our second priority is to be accurate with our information that you're getting. Okay?
All right, looks like, any more questions? All right, thank you all very much for coming. We are going to be putting the PowerPoint or some version of this in the video on WRPS. So that'll be an opportunity for you to actually go through to some of those videos and see